Well, this is an album that has been out for quite a while now, and I've been really struggling to kind of come up with my own thoughts. So bear with me as I kind of struggle my way through this review a little bit. Yeah, let's just dive in. Sky Void of Stars by Katatonia. So, Katatonia is a Swedish metal band getting their start in the mid 90s or so. Originally, it was a duo between I'm just going to stick to first names here. Jonas and Anders. Jonas on drums, lead vocals, and guitars. Anders on bass, backing vocals, guitars as well. And the two of them have been with the band since the beginning. Like, they're the two driving forces, and they've had a little bit of a revolving door of musicians since then, but have had a pretty consistent lineup of Nicholas, Daniel, and Roger, rounding out the band on bass, drums, and guitars, respectively. There we go. And they've even had some pretty prominent individuals, especially right at the beginning, like Michael Eckefelt from Opeth was kind of uncredited, credited in the mid-90s on that. Katatonia is one of those bands, for me, that kind of always flirts with progressive rock tendencies and leans into the progressive rock aspect without actually taking the plunge, without actually going fully into the prog side. What I do like is the atmosphere these boys bring. They're much more gothic. They're very dark. It's, a little bit more menacing. Every once in a while, they'll get their teeth into you. And I really, really do love the menacing environment and the menacing feels that this band brings. I've just never been wowed by any of their albums, and that's just me coming to the table. Their last album of City Burials was fine, it was pretty intense, pretty heavy, pretty bombastic in that sense, but, it never really captured my attention as much as I had hoped. And The Fall of Hearts, the album that came out previous to that in 2016, was fine. It was pretty good. Again, didn't have that draw that I was really, really looking for. So when I approached Sky Void of Stars, I didn't come with the highest expectations. And for the most part, I can say that's been met. Unlike City Burials or The Fall of Hearts, I never really felt bored throughout the album run. I never felt like it was a drudge to try to get through. But at the same time, there really wasn't anything that really stood out or really calling me back to the album. And the only really big reason why I kept listening to this album was I wanted to review it. I wanted to talk about it. What I will say, at least, is that the boys at this point, we're almost 30 years into their discography run at this point, in terms of their band. So the musicianship, the production side of things, the orchestration of sound is very clean, especially if you're looking for some really good dark metal, some really good gothic metal without being very operatic. Like a lot of gothic metal I find goes more and leans more into the operatic side of things or the symphonic side of things. These guys are a lot more in terms of like raw aspect of metal, and I can appreciate that, and I think that there's a place on that for the audience in that case. The two singles that came off of this album, Birds and Atrium, I think is how you pronounce it, are both serviceable. They're fine. I'm feeling a little bit more as though there's a little bit more on the accessible side of things. It's a little bit more poppy as well, just within some of the swells in terms of the chorus work on here. It gets me like head bopping and enjoyed in that sense. But yeah, there's not really anything on this album that really begs me to be listened to. Like, there are certain tracks on here that I like more than others. I really do enjoy the first track, the opening track of Austerity. It's very driven. I love that kind of blast beats that we have on here. It's got the teeth. It's got that oomph, that drive that I really enjoy. And Colossal Shade being the second track kind of continues off of the heel to provide a really enjoyable 1-2 punch of, just around 8 minutes worth of music. It's a little bit slower. It's a little bit more subdued, but that drive is still present. That inertia, that momentum is still captured in it. Opaline, the third track, I'm not as engaged with. I start to tap out on that. And Birds, as much as I love Birds, I'm just not as invested into it. So once we get into the mid side, like the midpoint and the mid run with Drab Moon, Arthur, and Impure Minutes, I feel like I start tapping out at that point, which is a real shame because the last three track of Sclera, Atrium, and No Beacon to Illuminate Our Fall they at least end on a fairly enjoyable note. You know, the drive is still back again. We're getting back into the punch, and it isn't until Absender, the bonus track, that I actually feel okay. I think I can enjoy this a little bit more. But yeah, so I mean, in the end, it's one of those albums where there's nothing on here for me to get excited about, but there's also nothing on this album that I will run out to turn off or get like upset about. It's not one that I would immediately recommend, but I mean, if you're a fan of Katatonia, I have a feeling you're going to really enjoy this one. But for me, I gotta say that Sky Void of Stars from Katatonia is one that I would ultimately skip, especially because we've had some really great releases from other metal bands out there. And this is just my own take on it. I'm not a huge fan of Katatonia from the beginning, so just kind of giving the vibe check. And for me, I would much rather spend my time listening to other albums and other artists. So that's what I've got for Sky Void of Stars from Katatonia. What did you guys think about this album and this band? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And that's all I've got for you guys today. That's all I've got. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.